You're watching The Real Deal, a show that breaks down big numbers and big moves around the week's big news. So, getting to the bottom of hot opportunities in India's real estate universe, today we are looking at the NCR market. Venkatesh, we were speaking right before the show. You said, finally, you're getting deals on the table which are priced right. My question to you is there any worry at all in terms of velocity of sales, looking at the new liquidity crisis? I've heard for ready projects, banks like SBI have now stopped funding. They're saying no more home loans. So for under construction and subvention schemes, it's become an extremely hard market. How soon will we get out of this?
Yeah, I think, Manisha, that's a valid point. If the banks are looking at home loans with a cautious eye, it's quite natural that the residential sales will slow down. But I think at the end of the day, the fundamental crisis is something which is, in our opinion, transient. If we are looking at players who are looking at fundamental demand, looking at product quality, looking at product timelines, I think the banks are also looking whether they're providing corporate loans or home loans to the developer to deliver on his promise or his commitment. So we feel that yes, it's going to be a bit of a dampener, but I don't think that over a period of time this kind of volatility in the mindset of the banks, especially vis-a-vis home loans, will last. Okay. So if you're looking at the near term, let's say next 1 month, 2 months, yes, there could be some kind of dampening effect. But if you're looking at 6 months, 9 months, I don't think that should be an issue.
All right. Sanjay, in fact, I'm very surprised that, banks are taking such a cautious approach on home loans. That has traditionally been their safest portfolio. So you agree with Venkatesh? It's a short-term sort of nervousness and, 30 days, 60 days as maximum we're going to see. It's scary. I mean, as it is, you have very little funding going in for under construction flats, specifically from home buyers. And now you have a situation where banks are saying, look, we are very cautious about lending to projects that we are not 100% sure about.
Manisha, I agree with Venkat, and I have a similar concern. I think the whole financial sector is aware of the exposure they all have together with NBFCs. And they've been to this party before. They've lended money for construction at 9 to 15% in the past. Then the NBFCs enjoyed the party with the same projects at 20% and 18%, some even higher. So one project cannot give you these kind of, returns. So obviously the banks have taken a precautionary approach, and it's the right thing to do, especially at a time when there's so much of shake-up on the NBFC. Okay. But I think...
So the other important question, Sanjay, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you because we're running out of time, and this is an important question. When do you think big players like you would be ready to look at new opportunities? How long are you going to let this market, give it some time to breathe and settle down? Because they will come to you. It's a question of, will you take more exposure to NCR market if you get great deals?
Manisha, we are already 7 projects in NCR between commercial and residential and various price points. And we are looking at least 2 more projects and 1 relaunching in Noida Sector 150. So we are definitely looking at it. However, while the valuations and proposals are plenty and valuations are attractive, the actual cost of capital construction, labor, steel, all has gone up. So land may be available and cheaper, but overall, it's still a very fine line, and we want to be very cautious and careful. We want to pick up the best and go with a conservative view on the market.
Okay, conservative view. Let me bring in Anuj here. Anuj, turbulent times, huge opportunity for strong players in India's residential landscape. NCR is a true, let's say, test of anybody's mettle. How do you see? Give us a 1-year outlook for NCR.
So clearly, Manisha, tough times. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Nobody can say this is not a tough time. I mean, there are 2 parts to the question that you earlier asked. One is the retail home loans. I mean, I had never expected that retail home loans would slow down. I mean, that is, breaking the, camel's back. If that continues for a sustained period of time, I'm also hopeful, like Sanjay and Venki, that, in 30, 60 days, that'll go away. Otherwise, that can become a huge dampener for recovery of this sector. But the second point which we did not cover is really the lending to the developers. The equity that was available, Manisha, and the revenue that was coming from the pre-sales was insufficient to be able to complete the construction. And hence, that was being filled up by NBFCs. Now, suddenly, the NBFC is also not giving the developer the construction loan that they had agreed earlier. So there is a financial closure of a product that had happened, and suddenly that financial closure has opened. So I do feel that there is going to be an issue there as well if the funding from the NBFCs does not continue to the wholesale side, which is to the developer for the construction, because clearly equity and pre-sales is insufficient at this stage to be able to complete those projects. So I would say is that, this really, the crisis needs to be sorted out quickly. And, if this continues, maybe for 2 quarters, I think there will be very large consolidation. And certainly in the NCR, you will see a huge amount of consolidation. However, my thought is that, the RBI and the Finance Ministry and the government must be looking at this very carefully and saying is that we need to do something to be able to enable the retail home loans to come in, and equally the funding from the NBFCs to the developer, at least for the construction.
I do hope, Anuj, let me wrap out here. We've run out of time. I do hope RBI wakes up to the funding requirements of developers. That's always been a sore point for developers. They don't get money for land. It's always expensive. There's an opportunity, but probably a much bigger bloodbath if things are not taken under control. Anuj Puri, Venkatesh Gopalakrishnan and Sanjay Dutt, thank you gentlemen for joining us on The Real Deal, and hope to see more of you on the show as we decode all the big stories and the big news in India's residential and real estate landscape as a whole. Goodbye and thanks so much for joining me.